All right, welcome back to the channel. I am here today with the winner of YCS Birmingham Ultimate Time Wizard Tournament, Allisdair. How are you feeling, King?
I am feeling absolutely great. Thank you very much.
We have your deck list in front of us now. There was a lot of hype going into this YCS because everyone knew that you were going. You posted it a lot in the Edison format Discord server in the Frog channel. You're very active in the Frog channel. You've been saying, honestly, for over a year, I feel like, that this is the best version of Frogs. And not just the best version of Frogs, but I think you've also been saying that this is just the best deck in the format. And you played YCS Birmingham last weekend and won the entire thing, 256 players, and your deck list was public. Your deck list was known to the world. You said, I am literally playing with this exact deck, and it's not a secret. People know my side deck plan, they know my main deck, they know my extra deck. The only card you changed from when we did Teach Me How to Cook and like all your other accolades like topping worlds, going undefeated in Swiss and all that, the only card that you changed is actually this one extra deck monster, Red Dragon Archfiend. This used to be the second Colossal Fighter, which allows you to play around Necrogardna, because if your opponent has a Necrogardna in the graveyard, you summon two Colossal Fighters, you equip Army Arm to their guide, you can crash it no matter what, and Gardner doesn't stop you. But what made you make this change?
So the one change for Red Dragon is pretty much just for Gigavise.
Hmm.
A lot of the turn one boards that they they summon the monsters in defense. They'll make like Power Tool, Titanio, in defense mode,
Mhm.
and to play around Colossal Fighter. But Red Dragon kind of punishes that play. So it's like a very niche thing. It never came up for me, and I never summoned it. But
I love that. I love that we do so much. We think so much about our decks in the game. And then when it actually comes crunch time, a lot of times it doesn't really matter too much, like the small things.
No, not a single bit. So yeah, but that was the line of thought, and like there are also like really niche scenarios where, say, your opponent you've got like a very limited amount of cards, and your opponent has like maybe a known Tragodia or something like that, and they're on
Right.
4,000 exactly, and then you can summon Red Dragon and equip Army onto it to make it 4,000 attack and just attack the game.
You're a
So
madman. Only you think about
yeah.
this crazy shit. It's so absurd, this deck. This is there's a lot going on in Edison right now. We are once again entering another like a renaissance period where two new decks came out around the same time. The Gigavise deck, which was also played at Worlds, the same Worlds that you went 7-0 in Swiss and everything. Pro Storm was playing it at that tournament, but he was not able to make top 8. I think the deck still needed some time to cook, but then it premiered again at YCS Orlando shortly after, where it took the most spots in top 8. Two different players with two different builds of Gigavise top. And so then you have Forgs, which is like, everyone was talking about Forgs for the last month. I feel like after your performance at Worlds, I streamed that event. A lot of people saw that. Like literally that live stream is probably one of the biggest live streams on the channel. It might be the biggest live stream on the channel. And so a lot of people saw your performance and they saw like how powerful the deck was, and it was just a lot of conversation about Forks going into Orlando, and then the Gigavise deck as well, which I was trying to warn people about in my tier list video. I said, Lone Fire is actually, I have it Substitute, then Lone Fire Blossom. Like that was my order of best normal summons in the format. Like it's those two, like in that order.
They just are. They just are, aren't they?
Yeah, they're the same monster too, if you think about it. Like they kind of do very similar thing. They search anything from your deck, which is ridiculous. But how did you feel going into Birmingham with the Gigavise deck being presented? I don't know how fast the people in the UK pick up decks. And in America, with TCG Player, people see a deck top and they order the entire deck. If they don't already have it, they order the entire deck and start playing it immediately. I don't know if the UK is like that.
I think the really competitive UK players were certainly aware of it and certainly knowledgeable of what the deck can do and how powerful it is. I actually think, outside of like this deck that I'm playing, I actually think it's just the second best deck in the format.
I kind of feel the same way.
Yeah, I know that it's so powerful and what it can do, and it's actually like quite similar in style
It
to this deck as
is
well.
with less steps, because this deck takes a
Yeah,
lot of steps. I've been playing this deck for probably a month and a half now, just like playing around with it, and it takes so many steps to get to the point a lot of time. Like it genuinely takes a long time to complete a turn perfectly, but you're not slow playing. The actions just take long. Like it takes long to resolve Pot Avarice. It takes long to like, discard for Fishborg, make sure your opponent knows, especially in person, like you want to make sure you're clear and concise with the communication and like what's happening. I try to shortcut as much as possible, but it still takes a good amount of time. And some turns are just like you're resolving multiple pots, multiple salvages, synchroing for multiple monsters. It's just a lot of steps. The Gigavise deck, it just does like a few steps and they kill the opponent all the same. I'm kind of jealous. I'm jealous of that. I don't think it's as broken now. What do you think about that? I think that Forks is a better deck.
I think Forgs is the best deck in the format, as I've sort of maintained for the sort of last year.
Yeah.
I think it's close. I haven't played loads of Gigavies myself. It's something because it's actually just really hard to play.
Yes.
As well. So I don't think I could give the final conclusion justice
Yeah.
yet. But from where I stand now, from what I do know about the Gigavice deck and Forgs, I think Forgs has a more resilient mid-range game plan, as well as being able to sort of combo off.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what sets it apart. Um, I think it's kind of like a better Yu-Gi-Oh deck on top of the combo, whereas the Gigavice has maybe a stronger like actual first turn combo. Like it's got a brilliant turn one where it sets up that like
Right.
kind
You
of
can't
like
target.
auto win board.
Yeah.
Yeah. But when it doesn't do that, I think Fogs are just a better deck.
Right. I agree. I think that when you're talking about the decks not opening their nut hands, Forks is a better deck, like you said, mid range. It can kind of duel a little bit more. And then the Gigavice deck is kind of just like a rock sitting there being poked with a stick. Like, okay, when are you going to do something? When it does do something, it is a lot, and it's one of the most broken things in a format, honestly. Like, it just spams the board, and it makes it where like it's really hard to crack back, which is so important that it has built-in protection away at combos. Very, very strong that it does that. It has resilience. It does kind of blow its load a little bit. It doesn't have like the best recovery plan, I will say, but like all of these things that I'm listing as pseudo weaknesses, they're not real because none of the other decks can keep up with it anyway. Like if every replay I've seen of a good Gigavice player or just someone who draws well with the deck, every replay I've seen, if they combo off the other, I'm talking about Black Wings, like regular Frog decks, Value Turbo, you name it, they just get destroyed. Like it's just like it's really really bad how strong that deck is.
I agree. I think maybe we're in a dark day for Edison format,
Yeah.
to be honest.
Yeah, this is definitely the Edison Renaissance of 2025. Combo decks are really powerful, but I believe that the player base will innovate and they will adapt because that's what the player base does. People adapted to Dream Frogs by main decking DDV. That became a big thing last year, the second half of the year. Dream Frogs won 2 back-to-back major tournaments, the biggest retro tournament of all time, which was last year's Nationals in the US. And then it immediately won Sacramento after that. And the builds were slightly different, 2 different players, and and then the people adapted and they started playing main deck DDV. They started playing side deck Massacre Restrict again. I hadn't seen that card literally years, and then Possessed Dark Soul became a card. So people adapt and they find ways. I'm wondering how people will adapt to this. I've already heard someone saying like, "Oh, we're going to main deck Oppression again." There's all kinds of other crazy ideas that people are coming up with, main deck and Karma Cut and stuff like that. Chain Disappearance was being talked about. I'm not sure. Like I have taken a backseat, and I will be taking more of a backseat this year just because I want to do more streaming of the bigger tournaments, and I want to competitively. Yes, like I'm focused more on my channel, and I said this at the end of last year. Like I'm going to be focusing more on my channel in 2025. I just love doing this more. I got my win last year. I'm okay. Like I'm not like some super greedy guy that needs to win everything. I'll leave that to all the super competitive people. Do your thing. I know what that's like. I like going to tournaments, but it's not like at the forefront of my brain. Like I really want the channel to grow. I really love this. We just crossed 7,000 subscribers, so thank you guys so much. By the way,
congrats.
But yeah, I wanna ask you, like, what was your tournament experience like? You know, you guys played what 8 rounds of Swiss, but you only played 3 day one.
Yeah, it's a bit weird. The tournament starts like kind of like at 4 p.m. I think it was 4 p.m. anyway, if my memory is correct, which is quite late.
That is late.
And to be honest, yeah, so we were kind of hanging around for Saturday for the majority of the day, just kind of twiddling our thumbs. Like, it's quite nice to not like need to get up early in the morning and just sort of duel immediately.
Yeah.
But you're kind of like sitting there in the venue for like 5 hours. Like, I just want to play now. Like, I want to play Yugioh.
Can you guys, were they firing off any pods while you guys were waiting?
They were, but I don't know about you. I don't like to play any games before, just because I don't want to like get in my own head and if I lose some games, I don't want to like get like sort of tilted or whatever.
Yeah.
I just want to go in fresh minded and like focused and confident.
Also, your deck takes a lot to play, like stamina wise.
Yeah, so I kind of want, yeah, exactly. So I kind of want to save myself for the actual tournament, and I also don't want people to know what I'm playing as well. I know it's a bit ridiculous to sort of.
I was about to say, you are the most. Go ahead.
People might not necessarily know what I look like, so they might not know that it's
True.
me.
I don't know what
So
you look like. I still don't know what you look like to this day. I have no
and
idea.
Enigma.
Is there a picture of you on the UK website or something?
They took a picture. Probably save your eyes. You probably wouldn't want to look at that. Like, but
Yeah, I met
um,
Adam at YCS Orlando. Had no idea Adam was Asian. It literally blew my mind when I saw Adam. He walked up to me. First of all, he's like a gym bro. He's fucking huge, like this huge
yeah,
buff guy walks up to me, and he has this British accent, but he's an Asian guy. I was so thrown off. I was like, Adam, I did not know you were Asian. Someone could have told me this whole time. I thought you were gonna be like a regular European looking man with like a British accent. So that shit was so funny. Now I'm wondering, are you Asian too, or what? Like, what's going on here?
no, I'm white.
You said it so sheepishly.
The weirdest question I've ever been asked, but yeah.
That is so fucking funny. It's like, no, I'm white. Like, it just, oh man, I love it. But yeah, so I get what you mean. People don't know what you look like. They don't know that you're Allisdair from the Discord server that said I'm going to play with an open deck list. Like, they don't know that you've been saying for months, this is the best deck. I'm going to win with this deck. I do not care. You guys are all delusional. You're playing your hero frogs, your dream frogs. These are all just not as good as this deck. And I think that the more I see everything unfold, I'm coming over to the dark side. I do think that there are strengths to playing like other frog decks, obviously, but that they might not matter. they might not matter, and that's kind of the question that needs to be still answered, I guess. But so far this year we've had, I'll say, 3 major tournaments. We had the GOAT Format Italia tournament, we've had YCS Orlando, and we've had YCS Birmingham. 2 of those have been won by Forgs, and one of them was won by Value Turbo. So it is and if you also want to be technical, the other event, the 4th event, was 100 players, and that was the Retro Games tournament that I streamed, and that was won by Adam, and that was also Forg. So like technically, the only tournaments this year so far that were over 100 people were 3 of them were won by Forgs, and one of them was won by Value, and that is like outrageous. We are at the very start of the year, and already this deck is taking so many events. What do you think about that?
You better put it S tier in your next tier list.
I mean, clearly, like it's not, but it's not. So you know me, I am a truth teller. I'm objective. It is undeniable. Like it is not up for debate if it is an S tier deck. I currently have this as the best deck in Edison format, and I would be very surprised if there was an argument against it that I find to be reasonable. I think that this is the best deck in the format right now.
Yeah,
I don't think that's a hot take either.
I think so too. No, I don't either. But I mean, I would say I'm a bit biased.
Yes, but you stuck to your conviction. I love that. I love that you were like, you're kind of like Jeff Jones, because I don't know if you know this story. In 2010, before SJC Edison, Jeff posted his exact deck list on duelistgrounds.com, which is a forum, and he said, "This is what I'm playing for the SJC, and I'm going to win." And he fucking won the event after doing that, and that's what you did.
Well, you know.
You're in good company.
In good company, yeah.
It's insane.
Yeah, so I mean, it's probably like the thing that I'm most proud of, even with like the achievements that I've achieved with the deck, being the creator of it, being the creator of like what many view and what I view to be the best deck in the entire format. I think that's the best of it all. I'm really proud to have made this deck.
Yeah, and I'm so happy you won, man. Like genuinely, you and Sizzle winning the 2 YCSs so far this year. I love both of you guys. You guys are both like, I don't know. I just respect you as players so much for different reasons too. Like Sizzle is super humble and everything like that. We know him. I do podcasts with Sizzle. Everyone knows Sizzle. Love him. And then you're like more blunt, and I think that's the British side of you. And I resonate with that. Like I'm very blunt. People know me. I'm a straight shooter. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that fairies are the best deck because that's just bullshit. I'm here to tell you like, no, this is the deck you need to look out for. You need to look out for this. You need to look out for Gigavice. You need to look out for Value Turbo. You need to look out for Blackwings, Hero Frogs. I tell you straight up the decks that are like, these are the real best decks, not the bullshit propaganda. This is the real deal. But I'm here to tell everybody now, you need to worry about Gigavice and Forgs more than anything else. And I'm not saying that if you go to a tournament, you're only going to play against these 2 decks, because you're not. These decks are hard to play. Allisdair, you can speak to that. Like, this deck is very hard to play.
Yeah, it just is. Like as I've said before, it's like not your typical type of Yu-Gi-Oh deck in Edison format. It's not your sort of summon and set back rows and sort of gradually trade with your opponent. It kind of can grind with like that, but it's a different type of Yu-Gi-Oh. It's combo Yu-Gi-Oh, and it's fast, and it's something that a lot of older Edison players aren't necessarily comfortable with. Because it's just so alien as a concept to them. And I'm sorry, guys. If you want to keep playing this format, you're going to have to adapt.
Yeah, it kind of looks a little like modern when these decks are being played. To be perfectly honest, like I thought that Dragon Turbo threatened Edison format like years ago, maybe a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, something like that. Whenever Ghost Rider started to really make waves with the deck, I was like, yo, this deck, if it becomes consistent enough, it might actually threaten the format. But now I feel like Dragon Turbo is not even close to the level of the
No.
If I play against Dragon Turbo with Forgs or with Gigavice, I feel pretty comfortable. Like personally, I just
Yeah, I mean, I kind of feel that way about like with Fogs. I kind of feel really comfortable about like every single matchup, to be honest.
yeah
Even GB, GB's like kind of like the deck that you don't want to play against, but it's
yeah
still in your favor. Like
yeah
that's the thing. Like when I was at the YCS, I was thinking the only deck I do not want to play against is a mirror match, like a direct Fogs mirror match.
right.
So that was the only thing that really scares me because it's just the best deck and I don't want to get sort of comboed out.
Right. I actually had one. So it's funny, in Attack of the Giant card on Sunday at YCS Orlando, I played Forgs and I had a mirror match and I had two GB matches and a mirror match in the 3 rounds. I think I played 3 or 4 rounds. But I played 4 rounds. I played a Hero Frog, but that was just like a bye. I played a GB guy, another GB guy, and a mirror match. And honestly, out of all of them, even though the one I eventually lost to was the second GB guy, who was Andre Torres, I think is his name. I lost to him and like top 8. But before that, I played right before him in top 16. I played against a Forg mirror match, and it was the most anxiety-inducing match I've ever had. Like I was sitting there the whole time hoping to God that I would live every turn, and I definitely don't like that feeling. That does not feel good. But
yeah, it doesn't. I think it's the matchup is very dependent on the dice roll, just because a lot of hands the deck needs one turn to set up. So the person who sets up first is just at such a humongous
yeah,
advantage. And obviously, like there are some hands that you draw that are a bit slower that you need to grind with, and you can't really grind if your opponent just has a cracked hand in the mirror.
yes.
So you'll just lose on the spot. So yeah, it's very very scary.
I remember when you qualified for Edison, no, Format Library Worlds, you played a mirror match at some point. I don't know if it was against Adam or was against the other guy.
It was against Mitch, who also topped this event as well. And yeah,
I saw that replay.
I think the whole match lasted about 6 turns in over the three games. So
Yes,
it was a bit insane.
it was. You guys drew good hands every time, and it was just OTKs back and forth. It was nonsense back and forth. And I just was like, damn, if this deck does become really good, then I think the side deck might need to adapt so that the mirror match is a little bit more stable for one
It
of you.
does. It does. It's not a good mirror match. Like obviously, some decks have really skillful mirror matches. I don't think this is one of them. Which does worry me a bit.
I'm gonna say this. I don't think mirror matches in Edison format are good in general. Some of you might disagree. This might be a hot take. I think that all the mirror matches in Edison are pretty fucking shit. Honestly, the Blackwing mirror match is awful. You can ask all the best Blackwing players. Like if you ask Ludo or HT19 or any of those guys who have like won multiple tournaments with Blackwings, the Blackwing mirror match is abysmal. The Value Turbo mirror match, I've asked Sizzle, I've asked OG, I've asked Televisual. Again, some of the best people who play Value, they don't like the Value mirror match. It's like, sure, the better player can win in all of these mirror matches more often, but like not so substantially that you feel confident going into it when your opponent does the same thing as you, like Set Raiko or Whirlwind Shora or whatever. And as one of the best Hero Frog players, I'll tell you that the Hero Frog mirror match also isn't very great either, because there's a lot of variables that go into it. Like, did you draw Miracle Fusion? Did you see Treeborn Access? Did you draw your Alta Vanity's Fiend? So it's like, I just think in general, my point is, I don't think mirror matches in Edison, I don't know what format they might be a lot better in, but in Edison, I don't think mirror matches are good across the board. Like, I can't imagine a Gigavice mirror match is good.
No, I can't imagine it's good. You probably need to go to like Dragon Ruler or like Necros or something.
Yeah,
like a good mirror.
Yeah, like a format that's named after a deck, right?
Yeah.
Like you just named two formats named after a deck. So those are probably like the ones where it's good. But like if you're talking about like Edison or Tengu, it's like, bro, Tengu, I don't know. Like the mirror match, it's okay, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I think that the mirror matches are all just kind of shite. But yeah, so the side deck probably needs to adapt to more people playing this deck. But there is a barrier of entry to Forks. There's a barrier of entry, I'm assuming, as well to Gigavice. And I don't think that every single player is about to just pick up these two decks and start entering every tournament they can. Maybe that's what's going to happen. 2025 we're at the very beginning. Who knows? I still have hope for the format. I have hope that people are going to like play what they like, regardless. At the end of the day, like people are still going to play their Value Turbo. People love that deck. I think the people who like Hero Frogs and stuff like that, they're going to play that. People who like Blackwings, they're going to play that, right? So
how can you like Blackwing?
I don't know. But people love it. I don't. In 2025, I cannot imagine. Is that what you played in the finals?
Against Blackwing? No, I played against Machina, another deck that I don't know why people would ever play that,
but not too much on the Machina channel.
No.
Why don't we talk about your rounds? Like what you played? So okay, there's so much to unpack. So first things first, day one, you played 3 rounds. So you were waiting around. It was kind of boring, which is waiting around. You can't really duel because you don't want to show people your deck. You also don't want to run out of stamina or whatever. So you played 3 rounds, but there's like an incident that happened to you day one. Can you talk about that?
I've never felt so absolutely stupid and angry at myself in my entire life. So I got my round 1 pairing and sat down. And my opponent was actually a really lovely guy who actually is from my locals. So I know him, and I play against him, and I beat him 2-0. And I try to report it on the Neuron app, my win, and it's like it already says that I've lost.
Oh,
and
shit.
I'm like, what is going on? Like, so I was like, this must just be a glitch. So we go up to the table, and my opponent comes with me, and he's like, he's like, oh yeah, I'll come with you. You won fair and square. Like, I'll just get it sorted. So he's been really sound about it. And then I look at it again, and I'm like, hang on, we were at different tables. and he was like, oh yeah, well I was at the right table. Yeah, I think you were wrong.
Oh man.
And I was like, oh, I think he's right. And he was right, and I sat at the wrong table. And which is wild to me that nobody came to like his real opponent.
I'm wondering, like, what? Yeah, like, how did that happen?
Yeah. So his real opponent didn't come to this table because then we would have all figured it out.
Yeah.
And I would have just gone to my actual table. So nobody came, and I just dueled. It was like a full half-hour duel that we had, and we were blissfully unaware. And he got the gift of the gods because he lost and then got given the round win, and
wow.
I got given the match loss.
That's round 1.
Round 1, yeah.
Wow.
So, and I know that this event capped at 256 players. So you have to go X1 to top.
Yep.
So I have to basically go undefeated for the rest of the tournament if I want to win. Which is really hard. And I was like kind of annoyed. I was just more annoyed at myself.
Yeah.
Because it's just my own fault. I've got no one else to blame but myself. It's not Konami's fault. It's not my opponent's fault. It's only me. Yeah, but I just kind of needed to put it behind me because I needed to focus. Because there's no room for error from this point onwards.
Yeah.
And I just had to sort of get it done. So I did that, put myself in a massive handicap, and then round 2, I played against Hero Frog, which is exactly the matchup you want to see.
Yep.
And I was just like, not even a contest. I beat that 2-0. And then round 3, I played against Blackwings, and like I at this point I've won every dice roll so far, so I'm like still feeling like, yes, this is like my day.
Yeah,
that's my tournament.
That's good.
And this is one of the hands where I drew, like, it was something like 1-for-1 Dandy Foolish Substitute Salvage Pot and stuff like that. And I was
my God.
Yeah, and my opponent like scooped before I finished my turn 1, and I whenever my opponent scoops before I don't see anything, I always do the conversion side. Because I always kind of like assume that they're on Blackwing, or like a deck that's going to floodgate me.
Yeah, because they didn't even show a single card. They probably are playing something that gets destroyed by that turn 1. Like they couldn't even possibly fight back.
Yeah, so I just assumed it. I assumed it was one of Blackwing or Vayu, so I decided as if it was Blackwing, and it was Blackwing, and yeah, I just 2-0 that guy. So day one ended after just the 3 rounds, and I was 2-1, having not dropped a single game, which was very annoying. Um, and then the next day starts, and I played against Hero Frogs at the start of that day again. Very good start of the day. Nice to get it started at 2-0, that guy as well. Like he literally, like I remember in one of the games, he just goes first and summons Stratos and passes, and I just double armory on Colossal into that. So yeah, just that matchup is so unbelievably free.
Yeah.
And then I played round 5. I got my first. I lost my first game like legitimately in this one. I lost one game against Vayu, against an Irish guy who was really nice, really like friendly. I think he's friends with Ranak.
Okay.
Because he was there as well. But he was super nice. But I did beat him too. And then I played against Blackwing in round 6, which I beat 2-1. And then in round 7, I played against Blackwing as well, which I beat 2-1. But I should
Wow.
have been knocked out. I should have been knocked out of the tournament here. I lost game 1 to this guy, and then in game 2, I'm like I brick and I draw a really bad hand, and I'm in such a bad losing position, and all my opponent needs to do is nothing. And I've got barely any cards, and he's got more than me. And he randomly activates a set Mind Crush and calls Substitute, which I don't have, and he discards a Blizzard from his hand. Which means that the only Caius that I've literally just got Caius and no other cards, and that just solos him.
Wow.
And I'm like, and I was like, whoa! Like all I needed to do was not play any cards, and he would have beaten me there.
Well, I'll say this in your defense. I feel like a lot of times when you win a tournament, people don't really talk about like the journey, the actual tournament, like what happened every single round, all the things that went into a win. But like from experience, there have been times where like I also feel like I wasn't supposed to win if my opponent had done something better. And I mean, that's just, I guess that is the game at the end of the day. Is like, yes, a lot of times when you play people, you probably can see that they have a game before they see it. And some of them actually do, kill you, and some of them just don't. But like, I'll give an example of myself just to share. When I won YCS Atlanta, I played a top 8 match, which I believe has a feature match. So you can actually read this. But my opponent, I'm playing Gravekeepers. He's playing Lightsworn. His name is Dali. And at some point, he like attacks me directly with Aaron. And he's like, chalice for game. And I'm like, I have myself at 75 life points. And he's like, what? And I'm like, yeah, I was at 2075. So your chalice puts the Aaron at 2,000. I take 2,000. I'm at 75 life points. And he's like, well, I don't know how you got to that life points. And the judge is like, I have Frazier at 75 as well because I had solemn something earlier. So he attacked me with a Garoth earlier. Then I solemn something. So Garoth has a 50, and then you cut that like 150 into 75. And so I was at 75 basically after everything. So if he didn't play the chalice incorrectly there and thinking that he had game, he would have beat me because on the next turn I do like a play where I have to go summon assailant, attack, and switch his monster to defense mode. And if he got to just keep his chalice, he would have won. What ended up happening is after he realized that it wasn't game, he tried to put the chalice back face down, and I didn't even say anything. The judge immediately was like, well, you still activated Forbidden Chalice. So
would you have let him take it back if the judge didn't say that?
Probably not. But like the judge didn't, I didn't even speak. Like I just sat there and the judge was like, that card was activated. You have to continue with that. I'm going to assume that because I didn't let Billy Break take back his missearched on Tempest, that I also, especially back then, would not have allowed this guy to take back his chalice because he messed up. Like I just assume, I don't know hypothetically, but like I assume that I would not have let him take it back just because of at that time that's like 3 years before the Billy Break incident. So he's forced to play
not at full power.
Yeah, the Billy Break not at full power. So he has to play the chalice. I end up coming back with 75 life points. I win this feature match, and then I win the tournament. I win the whole YCS. But most people don't even know that happened in top 8. Now at the time it was top 32. So I had to play top 32, top 16, top 8, top 4 finals and all that. But that's like a part of my journey into the finals, right? Like if he just didn't do that, if he didn't have life points wrong or whatever, the whole story would have been different. And like a lot of little things like that happen for wins. A lot of times, like you're usually going to be a good player when you win, but you also need luck. Luck is a huge part in like everything when it comes to like winning. Winning requires a good amount of luck. Anyone who's done it can tell you that. And so while your opponent absolutely should have beaten you and all of that stuff, I think we play probably most of our opponents. And if you play it from both sides of the table, you realize like, well, yeah, they should have beat me this game as well. Like it happens more often.
It was like just one of those moments where you know how you know the feeling where you have in your stomach where you know you've lost.
Yes, I hate that. I hate it.
Yeah, yeah, I hate it too. And you're trying to grasp at straws and like any sort of little sort of thing that you could maybe use to win the game. And I'm just thinking, there's literally no card that I can draw that I can win the game with. Like this is just done. And then my opponent just does that.
Colossal punt. He was playing football. He just wanted to throw really bad. And it happens. I mean, it happens to the best of us. Like people throw all the time. People throw all the time. I'm not going to start throwing out people's throws because again, every player has played poorly at some point, no matter how good they are.
Definitely.
Right. So it happens to the best of us, literally. But you end up winning the Blackwing match, and then you only have one more round left, right?
One more round, and I see who I'm paired against, and I know what he's playing, and I know that it's a mirror match. So I've got to play a mirror match on the bubble, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm not going to be happy if I am knocked out of this by my own creation.
Right.
And I was quite fortunate. I back myself in any mirror match. I know that I can lose them because of the volatility of the mirror, but I would back myself as like probably the most experienced Fog player in the world.
You have to be. You literally have to be.
Yeah, so I back myself. I still think it's in my favor. And the dice roll happens, and I roll a 6. And I'm like, oh yes, and he rolls a 6 as well. So we have to roll again, and I roll a 1, and he rolls like another 6 or something. And I was like,
God.
It like slipped out of my fingers. And then he beats me in game 1.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so I was thinking this can't be the case. Like I can't lose here. And I somehow win game 2 with like by like 7 cards down in card advantage, just through playing for damage, and then I win game 3 in time with Psychic Life Transfer.
Okay. Yep, that is in your deck list. I'm looking at it.
Yep, it came up, and it's the first time it's ever come up, and it was just clutch as hell.
Fall the marbles.
Yeah, it literally the most clutch moment it came up. So I'm so glad that I have that in my extra deck. So I topped. I finished 6th in Swiss. After I kind of in my mind went EXO, but
I want to ask a question. So you finished 6th. Did anyone make it who wasn't X1?
No.
Yeah, because 6 for X1 to be 6, that's pretty far down.
Yeah, it was 1 XO and 7 X1s, and then after that, it was all the X1s made it, and then after that, nobody else did.
Yeah, brutal. Not even an X11.
No, there was 1 X11 who came 9th.
Wow. So even if you drew, it was still a bad result. Like you would not have topped, it seems like. So yeah, that is very, very unfortunate. Or if you did draw, you don't know that you're going to be the one that gets in anyway. Like if that happens,
I would imagine I would not have been the one to get in because since I lost round 1, all of my tiebreakers would have been really bad because all the people that I'm beating are dropping usually like straight afterwards. So I didn't really think how I could afford to draw any games. So yeah, it had to be a win out, and I'm glad that I did. And I'm glad that I did with Mitch as well, who's one of my best friends. He topped using the exact same deck list as me. And yeah, it's kind of like a good moment for both of us.
So what place did he finish in Swiss after everything?
He finished 5th.
Okay, so he's right above you.
Yeah, which is good because we're in different brackets as well. If we were to meet each other, we'd only meet each other in the final.
Yep.
So he ended up losing his top 8, but I did win mine against Vayu. And in the you're sitting down for top 8, and I didn't really have any nerves. I do get some like anxiety before the actual tournament itself begins, but usually like when it like is underway, I kind of just lock in and I'm just
Same.
focused.
Same.
Yeah. So I wasn't nervous in the top 8, but I drew one of those auto win hands. I won the dice roll and drew one of those auto win hands and just like blitzed game 1. And I drew like really well in game 2 as well. And just it was like quite a simple 2-0 victory against that guy.
Mhm.
And then I play against Forgs again in the top 4. And this guy was probably a little bit more experienced with the deck than the person I played on the bubble. So I thought this could be a difficult matchup. But I did win the dice roll again, and I drew a God Hand game 1. And he drew a God Hand in game 2 and beat me. And then I drew a God Hand in game 3. So we kind of just, that's kind of like
You
how the
went back
mirror
and
goes.
forth. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not skillful. It doesn't, there's nothing you can do about it. But I just played my cards and beat him, basically.
Yeah.
And I get to the final, which is against Machina, and I'm thinking this is an insane matchup for me.
Yes.
Like I'm feeling so unbelievably confident, and then I get into game 1 and draw my hand, and it's just all spells, and I'm like, oh, like
Yeah.
I've got such a good chance, and it's just all gone to crap because
Yeah. What spells
it
were they?
was
Do you
something.
remember? Like, are they
Yeah, it
Marays?
was something insane like double avarice, once like one moray, and like MST, heavy storm, and maybe and it was in a reckless greed. So I was like, the reckless greed needs to get me there. But this is not a good hand. So eventually I draw like reckless off a reckless, and I'm like taking loads of hits, and I get to the point where I resolve like a reckless on his turn after he's put me on 1,100 life or something like that.
Yeah.
And I finally draw Swap Frog to go with the salvage in my hand from the final reckless. So I go for game on my turn because I've got heavy, and I can just go for it. And I don't have enough life points to colossal arm him, so I have to bounce his board with Brynak and go for it with the sort of Brynak Goyle board. And he has Gauze and to live it, and then I'm obviously under reckless, so I can't
Oh.
like do any more. So he then just beats me. I think he like top deck like Pot of Avarice or something after that into Gear Frame and just kind of like beat me.
Oh, so you
Um,
lost game 1.
I lost game 1 after coming back into it. Yeah.
Wow.
And the guy when he won, he like smacked the table.
Oh, of course. I would be
And
so happy if I was him because he's not supposed to win game 1.
I got like kind of like I was like, this is really disrespectful. I didn't like it.
Yeah, that is definitely for like sportsmanship wise. That does not feel good because the game is not over, obviously. But I understand that surge of emotion that he felt in that moment because he knows going into that finals, game 1 is basically an auto loss for him. So like to actually win game 1 in the finals of a YCS, he probably felt so good that it wasn't personal. It was more like just a response that your body has, you know?
Well, all the response that it made me have was I just thought I really really want to beat you now.
I don't blame you. Let's compete.
uh,
Let's compete, damn it.
yeah, let's compete. So I beat him in a really close game 2. But I was in control for most of that
What
game.
side deck cards did you see game 2? I'm just curious. Like, I'm assuming he put in a lot of hate.
I saw Fossil Diner in
Yep.
game 2. I think that was the only one that I saw, and like Crow, I think as well. Those were the only ones that I saw in game 2. But game 2 I was in the driver's seat for most of that game.
Yeah.
But going into game 3, I was like blessed by the gods in this game. I had no right to win the game at all. Because he goes first, he sets a monster and sets 3. And I draw. My hand is like good, but conditionally. I've got Swap Frog 1 for 1, 2 Pot of Avarice, Salvage, and Dimensional Prison.
Okay.
So that is a good hand. And he flips Dust Shoot in
Yep.
my standby phase. So he takes my Swap Frog and completely bricks me. And I'm thinking, oh, that is painful.
Yeah.
So I pass. I don't set Prison because I think it's just Raikou set and it's just going to get popped. So he summons for his turn and he summons Fossil Diner and attacks me for 12. And I'm thinking, oh, there's not really much I can even draw because I've obviously got Prison, but if it's a Raikou, it's just going to get popped.
Right.
So I draw Torrential Tribute for my turn.
Oh
Um,
man. Oh
yeah, so
man.
so I was rewarded for not setting Prison, thankfully, and I just set Torrential because I knew that he was gonna
Flip
flip
Ryko.
Ryko,
Yep.
and then thinking it was the Prison. So he does that, and I catch his Diner and his Ryko with the Torrential, and then he summons Gearframe, adds Fortress or something like that, or maybe sets a back row. He did something and then passed, and then I top deck Unifrog, which is the monster to go with my 1/1. So I activate 1/1 and pitch Uni and summon Substitute, but he chains Mask of Restrict to my 1/1. So once again, I'm in a position where I've got two Dead Avarices and a Salvage in
Salvage, yeah.
hand, and I can't do any plays.
This game is
So
ridiculous.
yeah, so I'm in a really bad position again. I set D Prison and pass, and I think now he tries to attack over my Substitute, and I prison his Fortress or something like that. And then I top deck MST for my turn for his Mask of Restrict, and then completely get out of my brick because I can then trigger
Yeah,
off
you get to
Substitute again.
play all your cards now.
Yeah, and then I eventually won that game in time. I would have probably won the game in the long run, because I just resolved all my stuff. But I like looking back on that, I was so lucky. Like, there's no way. Like, I
Yeah,
should
that
be
sounds
winning
like a
that game.
crazy chain. Trap Dust Shoot, Mask Restrict, Fossil Dyna. So he drew like some of the best cards you could draw against your deck, and it, you still were able to play out of it. And you had a couple other draws too, like Breaker would have been really good at points. I
He
think,
did have 3 sets, so I think he might have just been able to outbreak her.
yeah,
But yeah, the sort of the draws and the order that they came in was just insane.
yeah,
Like,
it
it
was
was
perfect.
just,
The Torrential was the key.
yeah, it really was.
Yeah, Torrential was
But
super nasty there. Yeah, I mean that's how the cookie crumbles. The rest is history. People remember the winner gets to tell the story. People remember the winner. People remember, what decks won and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm very happy that you were able to take it down with Forgs. Sounds like you fought hard for it too, from round one showing up the wrong table to having to go completely undefeated, having some very close calls, which that's a part of Edison format for sure, no matter how powerful or good your deck is, and just battling it out, having the resilience and the stamina to do so. And even after dropping game one in the finals, but then slapping yourself up and saying, I want to win this. Like, this guy just fucking taunted me almost. Like, he slammed the table after winning game one. Now I need to kick his ass, and you did it.
yeah, I mean, that's divine intervention. I think, the way he reacted like that, I kind of thought that, like, he's not fully locked in. Like, he's not fully focused. And like, there was a spot in game two where I've just got like set Mirror Force, and he summons Machina Fortress and summons Lila and just attacks into my Mirror Force instead of Lilaing it.
Oh,
And that was like completely like blew the game. Like, it was unrecoverable from that point for him.
yeah. You can't take
After,
random minuses against Forgs either.
yeah, no, you just can't. And I was thinking, maybe his little outburst has caused him to make an error there. So maybe a bit of divine intervention,
Yeah.
punishment.
Everything that was meant to happen happened. Like, you said that you were going to play this deck. You said you were playing open deck list, and you weren't lying about that. And everything just worked out the way I'm happy it did, because I love frogs in general. Like, I love all the frog decks. I've played pretty much all of them at this point. And yeah, I have a soft spot in my heart for this deck. So every time frogs does well, I'm a little happy on the inside anyway. But then seeing good players win, like I said, you and Sizzle winning the first 2 YCSs of the year is so good, because you guys are both known good players. And that kind of shows me that Edison still has a lot of skill separating people from, the people who are not as skilled. Obviously, people can still get to the finals and, get a top or whatnot, regardless of their level. But winning has been hard to do for complete randoms, and I personally like that. I like that we don't have like, who the fuck won this event, you know what I mean? Like, it's like the winners, who they are. Like, Televisual One Worlds, like, people know him, and you were undefeated, people know you, and you won this event, people know you. So it just shows the people who have been working at it, and I guess that's my point. The people who've been putting in the time and effort to be better than the rest and to work on their decks, they are the ones who are being rewarded, and I think that is how it should go. I'm very like merit based, if you will, when it comes to this game. So congrats.
Yeah, thank you. It was sort of like, it's something that I've been working towards for a long time. I've played this game competitively, obviously with some breaks, but since maybe 2013 or something like that.
Yeah.
So I've been this is kind of like been a dream for me. Like I really wanted to win an event, and I've been working towards that all of that time. And the fact that it's finally happened is almost more of a relief than like any
Yeah,
sort of happiness.
it is a very
Um,
surreal feeling, isn't it?
yeah, because now I'm like, I don't really know what to do with myself now.
That's why I'm focusing on my channel, because after you win, it's like you wake up and it almost feels like you dreamt the day before. Like when you woke up on Monday, you probably felt like Sunday wasn't all the way real. Like there's this weird feeling of euphoria.
Yeah, you're like, am I gonna like wake up now?
Yeah, like did that really was I the winner of that entire event that all these people showed up to? 256 people showed up. You had a 1 out of 256 chance of winning. And then when you lost round 1, your odds probably went way lower than that. And you're just like, wow, bro, like, is this really the end of my journey? And then you end up winning the whole thing. You have like a fairy tale story for yours, which is so cool. But yeah, welcome to the winner's circle, man. I enjoy it. It's nice up here.
It's nice, thank you. I do want to win more, though. It does
Good.
increase my hunger to win more.
Good.
I want to put my name down there as up there with some of the best in Edison.
That's nothing wrong with that. I totally understand. And I mean, I'm rooting for all of you guys who are being super competitive still, even after you've won already. And I think that there's nothing wrong with that. And I wish all you guys well.
Thank you. Coming from you as someone who's obviously you've won a real YCS and Ultimate Time Wizard, you know, you've been there and done that. So you can kind of like,
yeah,
you can kind of do whatever you want.
That's kind of what I'm doing. I'm loving content creation. I love covering these, like this interview. We've been talking for almost an hour now, and I just love this type of thing. Like I love being the Oprah of Edison format. It's kind of what I am, you know. Like I'm like the fucking Oprah of the format. I love interviewing the people who do well, even the people who don't do well. Unhinged moments to get captured on this channel all the time. You know, we had that epic fish fail, which was so funny to me still, and just like
I can't get over
just
that
burned the
video.
kitchen down. That shit was so fun. But like moments like that, I love it.
It's the fact that in that video, after he did one of those plays, you changed like the filter to like orange. That absolutely cracks me up.
Oh my god, I'm glad you noticed that. I just like it was like on fire. Like the kitchen was just like on fire. When he attached the armory arm under the defisher, and I just was like, what? I was
like,
like,
do you know what you're doing?
Yeah, just like we can all look back on this and laugh. And you know, I'm so open to having him back on. If he wants to, you know, redeem himself or whatever, that's totally fine. I like the guy. He's a sweetheart. I've known him for years, by the way.
Sorry for him, to be fair.
I know it sucks so bad because like you finish first and Swiss at a YCS, and then you want to show the people like this. Here's what I can do, and then things just kind of go wrong. And everyone has off days, like I said in the video. That's not indicative of like him as a player, right? Like that one moment, that one video is not an indication of how he actually plays or what his skill level is. Everyone has bad days. Fortunately for most of us, they don't get captured on camera, right? Yeah. So that's kind of the thing. But it was, in hindsight now, I hope that he also can, but I certainly am able to laugh at it because I think that's important. Now you're able to look back on moments where you goofed and you can laugh at it. I've goofed last year. You were laughing at it at the time. Yeah, I laughed at it in the moment because that shit was just so unhinged. But like, yeah, everyone knows I goofed. I went to nationals and forgot to register my deck list and wasn't able to actually play in a tournament at all. And that was the only time they've ever given Substitute out as a prize, which obviously I would want to win Substitute. I won JD and like I sold it instantly because I don't have any affiliation to JD. But I would love Substitute. I would win it. I would probably keep it because it's Substitute. So yeah,
it's frog card.
So. Exactly. So like I goofed. I have other goofs and stuff like that. We don't have to get into it, but you know, not too much on me right now. But yeah, you know, congrats again, Allisdair. I am very fond of you as a player. I think that you're awesome, and you've pushed Edison in a direction that we might not return from this. I don't know. Like, who knows what the future holds? But you basically said the ball's in your court now. Other people, you figure it out. Like
we might be venturing to another format.
yeah, maybe we finally can move on to somewhere else. But I still love Edison. I don't think that it's over or anything like that. But things will need to change in terms of every deck that is not Gigavice and that is not Forgs will need to severely adapt their main decks and side decks, I think, to accommodate the speed of these decks and the brokenness of these decks. That's just the reality of it. I'm not going to sugarcoat it.
Yeah, definitely 100% agree. You cannot go into a tournament and not respect these two decks because they are just the two best decks in the format.
Yep,
so,
and I've been watching World League replays, and there's a lot of these two decks as well, as you would imagine. Like, people are playing them more. I think I'm seeing more Gigabytes because, again, I do think that Forks takes more. I think Forks is harder to play. I think that the lines are way more specific, and you don't want to fuck them up. And so, while both decks definitely require a bit of skill, I think that Forks is the more skill intensive. Just personally,
you're gonna get tons of people in the Gigabytes Discord calling you out for that opinion.
I don't care. I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
Come what may will. Y'all know I don't give a rat's. I don't care at all. Y'all can't tell me nothing. Okay, so I don't come into the comment section if you want to, but I think Forks is the more complicated deck of the two, and I've as a person who's watched both of these decks be played and has actually tweaked around and played with both of these decks. Yeah, that's my opinion, and I don't see that changing immediately anyway, but we'll see what happens. I'm not one of those people that holds on to something even if I'm wrong. Eventually, if I find new information that might make me think otherwise, but as of right this moment, I'm like, bro, your combo is not as long. It's not as many steps. Like, flat out, it's just not as many steps. There are so many more steps and so much more to things to think about, and the way you have to count with Forks. I don't know if people understand the counting that goes on with the Fork deck. It's like a lot of it.
It is, and I think the Fork deck has because obviously when you play like your normal sort of frog stuff, that's a skill in itself.
Yep.
And being able to grind, and maybe grinding with the Giga deck, while not easy, I don't think is as hard as the Fork deck. I do agree though with the many Gigaplant players that some of the OTK solves that they have are like, you need to be like a computer to solve it. Like, some of them are just kind of like unfindable unless you're just like on it.
Here's what I'll say in defense of that though. I think when you do a combo with the Gigavice deck and you fail to OTK, your board is so outrageous still that most of the time you're going to win anyway. Like, yes,
I do agree. The Fork deck is more punishing if you get something wrong.
Yeah, because with the Gigavice deck, you're setting up negates. We're not setting up a fucking you can't target me card or a Stardust Dragon every time. That's not a thing. We can set up like a dupe lock with a flip flop, which is strong, but it doesn't say you can't play Brain Caius. Like, you know what I mean? It doesn't say you can't summon Dark Arm Dragon and pop my field right here. You know what I mean? Like, that can still happen to us, and they're like, you can't just go like set Sirocco, set deck Devi and have a chance to come back like that. Their field is so ridiculous that even if they leave you at some life points, a lot of times it's like, well, what can you do anyway? Like, go ahead, take your turn. I messed it up, but take your turn anyway. You're going to lose. So
yeah, that is true. There's definitely a lot of truth in that.
Yeah, sure. Just setting up negates. Like, if you played enough modern Yu-Gi-Oh, you know that in Edison format, we don't really have many negate cards. Like Light and Darkness Dragon, Titanial, Stardust are like our main ones. Having a searchable negate like Titanial that you can keep summoning over and over again, and being able to pair it with like a Stardust Dragon 2 it's crazy. Like, it's nonsense. It's actually really broken for this format in 2010. So
yeah, definitely. It's absolutely nuts, and that's why I think that the deck ends on better boards than the Fork deck. And that's like the one strength it has really over the Fork deck.
Yeah, it might not have as many cards overall, but the board is crazy. Like, the board that it ends on, and then like if you don't deal with it, it gets bigger. Like, the board just expands in a very aggressive and absurd way. I like both the decks. I like the way both of them play. In terms of healthiness, that's another conversation that I'll probably have on the Rush Hour podcast. But anyway, Allisdair, do you want to give any shout outs before we go?
Yeah, so just a shout out to all of the guys from Newcastle who came to the event with me. So Adam, Mitch, and Carl, they're three of my best friends. So it was really nice to spend the weekend with them and for them to share in my win with me. And also big shout out to my best friend Dan Jackson, who he is the reason why I am as good as I am, and I owe a lot to him. So
very nice.
That's it.
All right, guys. Well, I hope you enjoyed this interview with YCS Ultimate Time Wizard Champion from Birmingham. Allisdair, thank you so much for stopping by. I know it's really late for you in the UK, but we appreciate you, King, and congrats again.
Thank you very much, and thank you for having me back on.
We'll see you later, guys. Peace.